Jump into it, Scott. New York also home to the Ryder Cup this past weekend. What's your opinion of the golf? Let's start with the golf first up, Scott, on that.
Europe was amazing. They're better at this than the United States, and they've demonstrated that for this entire century, if you will.
Golf's biggest icons just broke their silence, and what they're exposing about the 2025 Ryder Cup might change the game forever. Behind those polished press statements and polite smiles, something dark has been brewing, a truth so uncomfortable that even the sport's most proper voices can't keep it quiet anymore. Golf's oldest and most respected rivalry just crossed a line, and the fallout might stain its legacy for good. Bethpage Black was meant to echo with calm claps and soft murmurs of respect, but what unfolded looked more like a rowdy football brawl than a golf tournament. Fans weren't cheering. They were roaring, taunting, and throwing drinks. One nearly hit Rory McIlroy's family. It wasn't just passion anymore, it was chaos, and golf had never seen anything like it. Then came Tom Watson, a man who's always stood for golf's class, grace, and tradition, stepping to the mic and saying the last thing anyone expected to hear, "I am ashamed." That single sentence shook the entire golf world. When someone like Watson publicly scolds his own country's fans, you know the sport's in crisis. The PGA of America scrambled to respond, forced to issue rare, uncomfortable apologies to McIlroy, his family, and the European team. For a sport that worships composure, it felt like watching the Vatican confess to sin. To the old-school legends, Bethpage didn't just sound loud when it felt violated. "This isn't football," one retired pro shouted live on TV, his face red with disbelief. "We used to teach etiquette before swing speed, and that hit hard because this moment wasn't just about a few drunk fans. It was about whether golf's most honored event had finally lost its soul. The respect, the silence, the pride, all of it drowned out by a storm of boos and broken boundaries." But the story of Bethpage wasn't just written by the fans screaming in the stands. It was being rewritten quietly, right there in real time by someone who refused to lose his cool. While America's side was drowning in noise, Europe answered with eerie silence. And standing in the middle of that storm was Luke Donald. Calm, precise, and so composed it almost felt unsettling. Donald didn't just survive the madness, he used it. While chaos swallowed the American team, he turned the energy into fuel and delivered something historic. Back-to-back Ryder Cup victories after his 2023 triumph. That win didn't just add another trophy to his shelf, it rewrote his entire image. The soft-spoken Englishman once seen as too polite for pressure suddenly became golf's master tactician, the quiet assassin of the Ryder Cup. What made Donald's brilliance stand out wasn't shouting, chest-thumping, or fiery speeches, it was control. Every move was surgical. No ego battles, no emotional breakdowns, just pure focus. His pairings were exact, his trust unshakable, and his strategy built on patience and unity. Even Paul McGinley, one of Europe's most respected captains, and Sky Sports veteran Ewan Murray couldn't help but salute him live on air. While U.S. pundits argued over analytics and chemistry like it was a math exam gone wrong, European legends simply nodded. Because they knew. They saw the art in Donald's restraint. This was golf stripped to its purest form. Method over madness, precision over panic. And in a weekend where fans lost control and sportsmanship got trampled, Luke Donald's calm wasn't just refreshing, it was an act of rebellion. He didn't try to silence the storm, he simply outlasted it. But while Europe thrived on composure and control, America was about to unleash a surge of wild energy that made the entire tournament's pulse skip a beat. Then came the spark nobody saw coming, a Sunday explosion that turned golf into pure theater. With Team USA trailing and morale sinking fast, Bryson DeChambeau, golf's resident mad scientist of chaos, stepped into the spotlight like a man on a mission. Down 5 through 7 holes against Matt Fitzpatrick, Bryson didn't crumble. He erupted. Shot after shot, he fought back like he was rewriting physics in real time. He crushed drives that defied logic, attacked pins no one dared aim for, and clawed his way into the match with pure defiance. When he finally halved it, even the most seasoned commentators could barely believe what they were watching. Their voices shook with disbelief and awe. Sure, it didn't change the Cup's final outcome. Europe still held firm, but it changed the energy, the emotion, the heartbeat. Suddenly, that quiet American bench came roaring back to life. Bethpage turned electric, vibrating with tension and hope. Commentators called it pure match play theater, the kind of raw, unpredictable adrenaline that reminds the world why this event matters so much. This wasn't about numbers or stats. It was about nerve. It was about guts, belief, and the madness that makes golf feel alive. It echoed the spirit of Medina 2012, when faith alone nearly flipped the script. Even golf's old-school purists, usually rolling their eyes at Bryson's antics, couldn't deny it. The surge was intoxicating. For Team Europe, it became the ultimate test. Could Luke Donald's perfectly tuned calm machine absorb that wild American wave without cracking? They didn't just survive the storm, they evolved through it. Europe didn't panic. They adapted, gliding through the chaos with poise that looked almost unshakable. And in that clash, something way bigger came to life. A battle between two versions of golf itself. Flash versus foundation, chaos versus control. Bryson's wild brilliance had set the course ablaze, proving once again that the Ryder Cup is the most unpredictable event in all of sports. But when the noise died down, a much deeper issue began to surface, one America could no longer ignore. Because even Bryson's fire couldn't save the man who was supposed to be Team USA's rock. Scottie Scheffler, world #1 golf's poster boy for calm precision, suddenly looked rattled. The guy who's usually ice-cold under pressure was missing putts, slicing drives, and walking the fairways like someone carrying invisible weight. The confidence was gone, replaced by something heavier. Doubt. It wasn't just nerves. Fans could feel it. Something deeper was wrong. His pairings looked awkward, chemistry felt forced, and his rhythm was gone before the round even began. Analysts started pointing fingers fast, especially at Captain Keegan Bradley's so-called data-driven approach. They accused him of trusting spreadsheets more than instincts, numbers over human connection. Meanwhile, across the fairway, Europe was moving like a machine, or maybe more like a family. Every fist bump, every quiet word between players looked perfectly in sync. They weren't just playing golf, they were breathing together, moving with one heartbeat. Luke Donald's team radiated unity, while the Americans looked like a collection of solo stars lost in the same room. Because the Ryder Cup has never been about raw talent. It's about temperament. As one veteran warned, if the chemistry's off, even God himself might miss fairways. And that became Scottie Scheffler's harsh reality.
Experience, Gary, and you know, these guys have all the money in the world. They're making so much money, every one of them, that it's not about money anymore. And we felt we were really given a strategic gift by the American team pursuing, you know, the 200 grand stipend, because we were everything to counter that. We were everything.
Brilliant, yes, but deeply unsettled. The man who was supposed to be America's calm within the storm found himself drowning in it. The crowd that should have lifted him up became his biggest distraction. What was meant to be his fortress turned into an echo chamber of frustration and doubt. It was golf's cruelest twist. The man who conquered majors and silenced pressure was now being undone by the same noise he once blocked out so easily. Bethpage was supposed to crown America's best. Instead, it exposed the cracks that no statistic could hide. When the dust settled and the final putt dropped, it wasn't about birdies or bogeys anymore. It was about identity. The question echoing through the locker rooms and TV panels wasn't who won, but what just happened to golf. Legends of the game, the same voices that built its traditions, started warning that Bethpage had shown something ugly beneath the surface. They said the sport had grown too reactive, too commercial, too desperate to be entertaining. And unless something changed, this chaos could become the new normal. Their biggest demand? Stricter crowd control. Immediately, they wanted match officials to have the authority to eject disruptive fans right on the spot, no warnings, no second chances. They pushed for new safety protocols to protect players and their families after that horrifying moment near Rory McIlroy's loved ones. An incident so out of line, even rival fans agreed it crossed a sacred boundary. But the legends didn't stop there. Their concern went deeper than the noise in the galleries. They began questioning how withdrawals, player health, and mental stability are being managed under this relentless pressure cooker. How can a golfer focus when the roars turn hostile, when the tension bleeds through every swing? The truth hit hard. Golf's calm, polished image had shattered, and the cracks were spreading fast. And that became Scottie Scheffler's harsh reality. Brilliant, yes, but deeply unsettled. The man who was supposed to be America's calm within the storm found himself drowning in it. The crowd that should have lifted him up became his biggest distraction. What was meant to be his fortress turned into an echo chamber of frustration and doubt. It was golf's cruelest twist. The man who conquered majors and silenced pressure was now being undone by the same noise he once blocked out so easily. Bethpage was supposed to crown America's best. Instead, it exposed the cracks that no statistic could hide. When the dust settled and the final putt dropped, it wasn't about birdies or bogeys anymore. It was about identity. The question echoing through the locker rooms and TV panels wasn't who won, but what just happened to golf. Legends of the game, the same voices that built its traditions, started warning that Bethpage had shown something ugly beneath the surface. They said the sport had grown too reactive, too commercial, too desperate to be entertaining. And unless something changed, this chaos could become the new normal. Their biggest demand? Stricter crowd control immediately. They wanted match officials to have the authority to eject disruptive fans right on the spot, no warnings, no second chances. They pushed for new safety protocols to protect players and their families after that horrifying moment near Rory McIlroy's loved ones. An incident so out of line, even rival fans agreed it crossed a sacred boundary. But the legends didn't stop there. Their concern went deeper than the noise in the galleries. They began questioning how withdrawals, player health, and mental stability are being managed under this relentless pressure cooker. How can a golfer focus when the roars turn hostile, when the tension bleeds through every swing? The truth hit hard. Golf's calm, polished image had shattered, and the cracks were spreading fast. In the aftermath, as the headlines cooled and the cameras packed up, golf's biggest names started holding quiet meetings behind closed doors. Whispers spread of a Ryder Cup reckoning, a push to restore order before the chaos becomes permanent. The PGA and European Tour both faced pressure, not just from the fans, but from the legends who built this game brick by brick. Insiders say there's already talk of reform. New codes of conduct, fan behavior rules, and even captain training on emotional management. Imagine that. Teaching golf leaders how to control energy before it turns toxic. But it's not just about etiquette anymore, it's about survival. If golf loses its class, its calm, and its soul, then what separates it from every other noisy sport out there? And still, not everyone agrees. Some players say the fire and noise are what the game needs, that golf's too stiff, too quiet, too afraid to evolve. They argue that passion makes it human. Others fire back saying passion's fine, but when drinks are flying near families, the line's been crossed and buried 6 feet deep. Luke Donald, meanwhile, has become a symbol of what balance could look like. Composed but commanding, calm yet competitive. His leadership showed that you can have energy without losing elegance. The real question now is whether others will follow that path, or if golf's biggest stage will keep drifting toward mayhem for the sake of ratings. Because one thing's for sure, Bethpage didn't just host a tournament, it exposed a transformation, and the world's still deciding if that's progress or disaster. And as the echoes of Bethpage fade into golf history, one truth remains. The 2025 Ryder Cup didn't just test swings and strategy, it tested the sport's soul. The event left behind more questions than answers, and now the pressure's on every corner of the golf world to respond. Will they tighten the rules, restore the calm, and bring back the grace that made golf legendary? Or will they lean into the chaos, chasing clicks and headlines until tradition becomes just another marketing slogan? Fans are split down the middle. Some crave the drama, the shouting, the raw emotion, the unfiltered energy that makes the game feel alive again. Others are heartbroken, saying the sport they loved, the quiet, noble, disciplined game, is slipping away one roar at a time. The internet's full of debates, and every highlight reel seems to blur the line between competition and spectacle. What's undeniable is that golf can't hide from this moment anymore. Legends like Tom Watson, Luke Donald, and Paul McGinley have already planted their flags, demanding respect, balance, and integrity before the next Ryder Cup rolls around. Because if Bethpage proved anything, it's that even the classiest game in the world can lose its composure when the noise gets too loud. So maybe this isn't the end of golf's old identity. Maybe it's the start of a new era. One that finds harmony between fire and finesse. One thing's for sure, the next Ryder Cup won't just be about birdies and bragging rights, it'll be about redemption. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because this storm is far from over, and you'll want to be here when the next chapter hits. These weren't just polite suggestions for change. They were demands for real action. The legends weren't asking for empty promises or symbolic gestures. They wanted enforceable rules, consequences that actually mean something. Tradition can't be an excuse for inaction, one veteran warned, his voice echoing through the locker room like a thunderclap. To them, Bethpage wasn't just a rough weekend. It was a warning shot. A message that if golf doesn't evolve now, unchecked passion could destroy the very values that make it sacred. The future of the Ryder Cup, they argued, depends on finding balance. The sweet spot between emotion and elegance, between passion and respect. On one side stands dignity, history, and composure. On the other, intensity, energy, and modern spectacle. Without that balance, even golf's most sacred stage could lose the very soul that made it timeless. Now that the cheers have faded and the fairways lie quiet again, one haunting question remains. What will Bethpage truly be remembered for? The scoreboards say Europe won, but for many of the game's legends, this Ryder Cup marked something far heavier. The weekend golf lost its manners. Luke Donald's calm, strategic brilliance drew global praise, a living reminder that discipline still wins, even when chaos takes the lead. Across the pond, Keegan Bradley's fiery defense of his team sparked necessary conversations about reform, leadership, and what the Ryder Cup should stand for in the modern era. This isn't about noise, one veteran said firmly. It's about respect. And that's the heart of it, because golf has always been more than just a game. It's a reflection of values, of patience, of balance. If the sport can learn from Bethpage, it might just rediscover what makes this rivalry so special. Passion held steady by dignity. But if it doesn't, 2025 won't be remembered for great shots or heroic comebacks. It'll be remembered as the year tradition surrendered to spectacle. Because passion isn't the enemy, forgetting the game's soul is. And if that memory fades, no trophy will ever shine bright enough to hide what's been lost. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you on the next one.